Hello, this is Tom Krazan. I'd like to share with you some trends and statistics related to FAA. 71% of our local Adventist students do not attend our campus, and we do not attract others from within the community. And unfortunately, we continue to shrink over time. So where's the problem? Is it the school, the teachers, or the superintendent? Or is it the families, the conference, or the students? Let's take a look at some national trends in education. Most higher income families have access to better public schools. However, at the same time, at least 12% of these families opt for even better educational opportunities, regardless of cost. Enrollment in charter schools has been exploding over the last 12 years. An interesting fact with this trend is that charter schools attract large amounts of private and corporate money. At the same time, enrollment in private schools has been on the decline. However, let's dig a little deeper. Over the last 12 years, private schools have lost and some have gained. The Catholics have lost 21% of their students, but they are still clearly the largest or most dominant player in private education. Surprisingly, both non-sectarian and conservative Christian schools have gained significantly during this same time period. Unfortunately, the Seventh-day Adventists have lost about a third of their school population over the same time. Here is some local information. All of our churches within the Fresno-Clovis metropolitan area are located in neighborhoods of low income. At the same time, there are 6 major zip codes in the northern part of the city with the largest family income. These zip codes do not have any SDA churches or schools servicing them. The rate of growth of our Central California churches is approaching 0. This means we are not bringing in any new families into the Adventist system. Stated another way, evangelism is not a feeder for Adventist schools at this time. Let's talk about student population at FAA. Our class sizes at FAA are very small, which also means that the student ratio to teacher is very good when you consider the academic opportunities. However, some of the classes are far too small. In the next 5 years, we will be graduating 4 very small classes. For the next slide, I've taken the next 5 years of class sizes and have attached that to the history of the school. So I'll be showing the graduation trends plus the 5-year projection. This chart shows the size of the graduating class over a 45-year trend. Looking at the decline is alarming. Now let's look at some economic data. This graphic is the 35-year performance of the Dow Jones. What I found was interesting, that the dips in the economy have a direct relation to the enrollment at FAA. So taking a second look at our school graduation graph, I realized there was a stair-step pattern, and the stair-stepping was directly related to changes in the economy. But there's also another realization. We do not recover after an economic downturn. And hence, over the last 45-year period, we have lost 2/3 of our student population. I next decided to take a look at the alumni trends based on age. I have made the assumption that the primary age for major donors is somewhere between 50 and 60 years old for several reasons. Today, that donor group is at the top of the baby boomer curve. And from this point forward, this population is expected to shrink. Our FAA data also predicts a dramatic shrinkage by about 1/3 in our alumni group, starting with the class of 2019. Next, let's talk about academic trends based on SAT scores. This slide is a little complicated because it is a combination of two SAT data sets. In short, SAT scores are made up of three major components, that is, reading, writing, and math. In the public school arena, the average individual score is about 500 for each category, with a combined score of about 1,500. At the top of the slide, you can see that for a national trend of public schools, the average is 1,500, with religious schools averaging about 1,600 and independent schools averaging about 1,700. Unfortunately, FAA falls significantly below these numbers with a score of less than 1,400 for the same test period. The bottom of the slide shows individual scores for several years. FAA only met the national public school average once during the last 12 years. On a local comparison, FAA falls mostly in the middle of Fresno Unified Schools, but is well below the national average and significantly below Bullard and University High Schools. Comparing FAA with Clovis Unified, our performance is even worse. Sanger Unified has some very difficult demographic issues. However, with the change in teaching strategy, Sanger Unified was able to make some dramatic academic changes in only 3 years. Also, with the change in teaching strategy, homeschoolers consistently outperform other teaching environments. Homeschooling data suggests that students at the approximate age of 10 or 11 can accelerate significantly in their learning if they are placed in the right environment. This information is consistent with the advice from Ellen White. Here are some observations. Charter school enrollment is exploding, and there is increasing demand for conservative Christian education. FAA graduating classes have shrunk by 2/3 regardless of past efforts. FAA does not recover from economic recessions or downturns. FAA alumni donor pool is anticipated to shrink in the future. FAA SAT scores are low, and FAA has reduced the number of electives over the years. Here are some additional observations. Homeschooling is high performance. Next, Sanger Unified has made significant improvements in their system within 3 years. FAA tuition and operating costs continue to increase. FAA is not known within our community. Data suggests that students have an increased capacity to learn even more than what we're currently teaching them. And the relationship between Adventist schools is not symbiotic. Some additional observations. There's a large potential pool of students, both Adventist and non-Adventist, in the Fresno area that are not well served by FAA. And last, another economic downturn is coming. Will we be in a position to survive at our current trend? Here are some conclusions. Enriched educational institutions like charter schools and conservative Christian schools are in demand. Ellen White promoted hands-on tactile education. Ellen White promoted excellence in education, including science. FAA has a great central location and ample land. Historically, decisions made at FAA made little impact to the enrollment trends we see today. So who is to blame for all this? Well, it's us, the school board. especially if we don't think any bigger today.